everyone. Today I'm opening the series of interview with amazing artists all over the world. And today we have a video live with an incredible artist, Helenya. She creates a wonderful, actually really amazing compositions, dynamic compositions using color theory. And today we will talk with her about how she used the color theory knowledge into her art and how actually she works in daily routine as an artist, and also what maybe helps her to organize such a wonderful exhibitions. Also maybe we get some tips, so feel free to ask any questions in the comment, and I'm accepting I see it. So it should be in a second.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm very happy to be here. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for your time. I'm really thrilled that you accepted my invitation, because I think it can be a very interesting talk about art, how you create art, and I see your amazing artworks on the background. And
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
first of all, how it's correct to pronounce your
Oh,
name?
Helenya?
Helena. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Maybe it would be nice to hear a little bit about your artistic background first, because to know a little bit more about you as a person, as an artist, where you're from, what art education do you have or don't have, and how everything is going on.
Yeah. So I struggle with this question. Because people are always like, oh, when did you first get into art and stuff? And I honestly, I'm pretty sure I was probably like really little. When I ask my family and stuff, they're like, I've just been drawing my whole life. I don't know. I have a very creative family. My grandma is an artist, and I think she really encouraged me when I was super young, to experiment with different mediums. And you know how like a lot of young children are sort of given some pencils and pens. My grandma was like watercolors, inks, like wax. Like she'd give me all sorts of materials, so that was really really nice. And then from there, I think it became like a safety. Like creating for me is like I don't know how you feel, because I absolutely love your artwork as well, by the way. It's
Thank
so beautiful and
you.
vibrant. But I think it can be like a real safety net, right? It's like if you're wanting to go into yourself and you can just sit and draw, and it's almost like kind of meditative, isn't it? It's like that flow state where you can remove yourself from the world. So it became this thing that I enjoyed doing because I liked creating the results, but I also really enjoyed that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then obviously at school I really liked it, and we just went on from there. And I thankfully have super supportive parents, so ever since I didn't really know what I was going to do. In the UK, it's very common to go to university, and then like I didn't know what I was going to study. I didn't have anything that really pulled me, and I just thought, well, maybe I'll go and study art. So yeah, I had the opportunity to go and study at Leeds in university, which was really fun. And yeah, that really helped me to challenge my perspective. And I think a lot of people talk about art school and think that it's very rigorous training, but the course that I did, it was very free, and it was very open-ended, and it was very much about your own commitment to your practice and how you want to show up and why. And a lot of people didn't like the course because of that open-endedness. There was no structure in a way, but I think it's actually a really important lesson to learn as an artist, because no one is holding you to it. You're making because you want to make, and you have to create your life based on that. It's not because someone else is telling you. It's not like you have to, I know a lot of other subjects you have to write reports or essays and things like that, and there was a bit of that, but the actual act of creating, it has to come from you, and the ideas have to come from you as well. So that's kind of, yeah, that's my background, I suppose. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear, and actually I think it's not so common when you have so much support from your family since the childhood, because I think you know that in many families, just art is something like for a childish thing, and it's really amazing to hear that there was a lot of freedom and support when you were growing. And in this case, I'm really curious, when you have like a freedom to do anything in art, and you can choose the university and it also gives you a lot of freedom. How do you think, what was what maybe moved you? I mean, what was that point that you just did you have this voice inside yourself that, yeah, I love this, or I like this? Do you have a strong connection with your emotions and how you decide? Because sometimes boundaries can help us. And
I agree. Yeah, I think that's something that I really struggled with. I know a lot of artists struggle with that. It's that kind of idea of niching it down, you know? It's like bringing it small. And it's really difficult to do, because if you're a creative person and you want to make stuff all the time, how do you decide? It's impossible, you know? Like I love making everything. I like ceramics, I like printing, I like drawing, I like painting, I like sketching. Like I like doing everything. But for me, I really wanted to make art my career. I didn't want to, you know, there were like 80 people on my art course at uni, and I think maybe like 4 people are artists. You know, like that's not a very high percentage. And I think it's because even though I had supportive parents, they didn't really understand, and a lot of people don't understand how to make it a career. You know, like you can have really lovely supportive people around you, but actually figuring out how to make art your living is not easy. It's not, you have to really think outside the box. And I think I came across this technique with the color theory that I primarily work with now. I kind of figured it out when I was studying in Marseille. So I studied in the south of France for a year, and I don't know, I just kind of did a load of research and put some ideas together. And actually the whole premise of my artwork came from being indecisive, because I really struggle to decide. Like I like making film, I like painting, and I thought, how can I bring them together? So I thought, well, I like stop motion animation, and for a little while I was making 3D sculptures and animating them, and then I thought maybe I can make movement in a painting. And I was like, how could I do that? And then I started thinking about lights and like color isolation, and yeah, I don't know. So sometimes not knowing what to do forces you to bring things together and draw things, make new connections, and then you end up doing something a bit different. Yeah, and I think it's going pretty well. So that's good.
Yeah, and actually, if someone haven't seen your art, please check out Helenya's account, because especially the reels, because you see, when you see it on the video, how it changed. It's really very eye-catching, because all these vibrant colors and very beautiful shapes, of course, because all the details and so delicate. And when it starts to move, and on the t-shirt, it's just amazing. I really love your t-shirt.
Thank you so much. I think your work is gorgeous as well. The colors, the vibrancy. Like sometimes I get really, you know, I find a lot of inspiration in other artists on Instagram, and I think it can be really hard to commit to one thing if you're pulled in all the different directions. But I think for creating a career, especially on Instagram, I don't know if you feel the same, but you kind of do have to choose one thing and really go for it. I don't know if you found this. Like I do a lot of other sketches, I do a lot of other paintings and printing, and I tend to not share them so much on here, because also you have to keep a part of your practice for you. Like I have to keep a bit of it for me, you know. It's not always performing, it's not always showing these things. Some things I just like drawing, and I just want to do it, and it's not, if I don't have to share it with the world, then it doesn't have to be amazing, you know. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure for everything you make to be perfect, or at least for me anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah,
me too. I also love to experiment with different styles, with different materials. And it doesn't mean that I have to show everything on my Instagram. And if we are talking about Instagram as an artist on Instagram, of course we have to show one particular artistic style if we want to achieve it. some
exactly.
goals there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how I came into this whole situation. Really, that's I suppose that's the idea behind the work. I enjoy it. It's a challenge because a lot of my paintings is like three things on top of each other, so it's quite complicated, and I quite enjoy that. I like the challenge of it. But yeah, I do lots of different things. So to answer your question of how I sort of was able to come here, like, I still do a lot of other things. But yeah.
And what about art shows? In my mind, it has some kind of connection, similar connection with Instagram. You have to show the very particular artistic style that you just can't come and say, okay, I have thousands of sketchbooks in different styles.
Yes, yes,
Let's
true.
show it's all there. You always have a concept, the idea of each show.
Yeah.
And can you maybe share with us a little bit what was your first
Idea.
maybe a gallery,
Yeah.
or how it was?
Yeah, well, so I'm lucky that I was able to go to art school, and that was something that was really encouraged, was showing your work. Because I think a lot of people they'll sort of make their pieces and then don't really think about how they're going to display it. And I think that's a huge part of art, is actually creating something and deciding how you want your audience to engage with it. It's not just something that you make in the studio and then leave. You have to consider the way it's going to be received, basically, and you can control that. It's up to you to control that. And I think showing your work in galleries and at events is, the goal, really. Like, I don't just make my art for me. I make it to get something off my chest and to share an emotion, and to also bring people together in a way with like a shared visual representation of how I might be feeling, and maybe other people can relate to that. So yeah, art shows I was really encouraged to do them at university. Unfortunately, during my second year, it was COVID. So for like 2 years, my third year and final year, it was difficult to show work in real life. But we were really lucky because we managed to have a sort of final show, and it was physical, it was in person. Whereas I think a lot of places had to do them online. A lot of universities, a lot of artists had to sort of change the way that their work was received, and that posed a lot of difficult instances for people. Like, it wasn't, yeah, I don't know, it kind of challenged artwork for a little while. I think we've started to see a whole new medium almost born because of that. So yeah, anyway, after COVID, or during COVID, my first like show that I put on myself was outside my house. And it was socially distanced, and it was literally what I was saying, it was to connect people. I think coronavirus forced everyone to go in on themselves. It forced people to isolate, and it stopped any sense of community almost. And people, there were a lot of people in my community that were on their own, and I didn't want that. It's not nice. So I kind of thought, well, if I put on an outdoor art exhibition and it's socially distanced, everyone was like 3 meters away. There was a path. It was like a one-way system, and yeah, it went down really well. It was at night because I wanted to have all the lights and everything. So it was in the dark, but it was in the summer, and yeah, it just ended up being this really magical experience. And I think it did bring a lot of my neighbors and my community together in a really hard time. So that was a really nice thing to do, actually. And since then, that was about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and I've been wanting to do something similar. But yeah, it's just a case of waiting. It's not cheap, is it? Putting on a show, it's time consuming. It's, yeah, financially draining, and but it's worth it. I
But
think it depends. It's like any event. If that's what you want to do and that's how you want to share your artwork, specifically my style, like, it really needs to be seen in person with the lights, and it is really about an experience. It's not just about seeing a piece of artwork, looking at it and walking away. It's kind of about engaging with it and feeling it, and yeah, watching it change and seeing how that speaks to you as well. So yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing this story about your exhibition. I think it's really lovely, and what I imagine when you described this, I think it was a magical experience and in the very important time. So Thank you for this story.
Oh, that's
And about your artistic style, about all this implementing color theory into art and the dynamic visual effects with the lights. Can you
yeah.
share a little bit about this and describe for people who are listening, maybe if they haven't seen it yet, how
Yeah,
it works,
yeah,
how
yeah,
you came to this idea?
yeah, sure. So it works with, I work with the primary colours, and I remember being, when I first found out that, so everyone at school is taught that red, yellow, and blue are the primary colours, and I found out that that's not true, and it really wound me up, and I don't understand why we're taught the wrong colours. It feels like such a basic thing that we should all have information and access to, but yeah, we're just all completely taught the wrong. So it's actually cyan, magenta, and yellow are the primary colours. So if you read newspapers, you'll always see like a
Yeah.
little color code on the side. And yeah, those three colors make up everything. So a lot of my paintings are based on those three colors because they also, so the so there's the subtractive colors and the additive colors. Now I always get them mixed up. I think the subtractive colors are cyan, magenta, and yellow, and then the additive colors are blue, red, and green. And those you primarily like when you use lights. So basically, I paint things with cyan, magenta, and yellow, and then when you shine the additive primary colors, red, green, and blue, they cancel everything else out. So because of the color frequencies and wavelengths, they sort of block each other out. I need to get really good at explaining this because it's so hard to get across. Sorry if it's not helpful. And basically, yeah, I make stop motion animation. So I create 3 images on top of each other in each of the primary colors. And then when the additive primary colors are shone onto them, it cancels it out. So you can only see one layer at a time, and it creates that kind of stop motion effect. But unfortunately, so far I've only been able to do it with 3 colors. So I'd like to experiment with doing it with like 5 or 6 layers so I can get a longer motion, a bit like a longer
Changes of the
animation.
images.
Exactly. So, but actually for now it's been really helpful because going back to what we said earlier, having limitations within your practice kind of is a good thing because it creates, it forces you to explore different avenues rather than just chasing something new every time. Because you've got a set parameter, you do have to figure out how you can use that to your benefit, and having only 3 images and being able to only create short stop motion animations means I've had to think of the kinds of movements that I want to capture. You know, I can't capture really long-winded films. It has to be short and significant, you know, like an eye blinking, like that's quite a significant movement, even though it's so short and little and often overlooked. And they make a lot of flowers as well, so flowers that kind of bloom and grow. And again, that's because the images, the stills of those, it's really obvious to us what movement I'm trying to capture. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
There's a question in the chat.
Mm.
Where can we study more about this color frequency?
So it's called, the effect I use, I should have said this sooner, it's called the Samoilov effect. So I believe it was originally coined, I think it was the 1920s, I should double check, or the 1950s, I can't remember. And this guy called Adrian Samoilov, this is the first record that I know of. There might be more, someone might contradict me on this, but this is my understanding. He used the technique as a way to change theatre scenery. So without having to design loads of different props and loads of different backgrounds, he would layer them, and then when the lights changed, you would have a different scene. And I think that's quite an ingenious use of the technique. So then, yeah, I don't think it's very well known though. So I actually arrived at the technique organically. I didn't know what it was called at the time. I just figured it out. And then it's only been in the last couple of years that as I've been doing more research, I've realized that it is a thing. There are a few other artists who use this technique, and yeah, and it's quite exciting really, like finding other people who use the same technique. But I hope that's helpful to answer your question. Look at the Samoilov effect and that will help.
Actually, I think there is a big field to research about color theory
Yeah.
and how actually the physical part of colors, because we as artists usually think about color like just something visual colors,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
is more more there, because when
Yeah.
we study about the length of these lights and
Wavelengths.
and
Yeah.
how it works,
Yeah,
there is
it's so exciting. I'm such a nerd for it. It
yeah.
really, like, just hearing you talk about it in my heart, I was like, yeah, color. I find it so interesting. There's a really cool fact actually. I recently made a series of artwork about this. Purple. I don't know if you know the color purple or magenta. So it doesn't actually exist. And this is my favorite fact to tell people. So it exists, but only in our brains. So it doesn't have a frequency. It doesn't have a wavelength. Basically our brain kind of makes it up because it panics and just invents purple. It's tricky to explain, but we have red, green, and blue cones in our eyes and receptors. And if you think about color as a line, a spectrum, rather than like a circle, it makes more sense. So at one end we have red, and then at the other end we have blue, and then in the middle there's green, and then like between red and green you've got like orange and yellow, and then between blue and green you've got turquoise, all cyan, all of this. But so when our red cones fire, we see red. When the blue cones fire, we see blue. Green cones, we see green. When our red and our green cones fire, depending like how much they're firing, we see orange or yellow. And then again, when our green and our blue cones fire, we see the sort of turquoise or teal. Now, our brain gets confused when our blue and our red cones fire at the same time, because our brain thinks blue and red. What's in the middle? Green. But the green cones aren't firing, so our brain thinks, well, how? We're not seeing green, so it just panics and it makes purple, which I thought was kind of funny. I don't know. I don't know if I explained that very well, but yeah, it's very
Yeah, I
interesting.
think you explained really well,
Thank
and it's really funny.
you. Yeah.
I also like these different effects when you how our brain perceives the colors when we look for a long time for red color, and then we just take it away, and then staring on the white page, we will see the complementary color of this color, and really made this effect
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
our brain just starting to give us information about the color, which is even not there. This is
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think there's so much research into color and light that we haven't had access to for a super long time. I was having a conversation with another light artist recently, and we were talking about how up until, well, for the last until the last 100 years, the only light that humans have really had has been the sun and fire. And it's only really within the last 100 years that we've had any form of electric light or anything different. So, and since we've got the colored LEDs, there's like so much more to explore with all of that, with the way that we perceive color and the way that we are drawn to light as well. And it's all one and the same. It's all a big, like, it's all linked. And I think it's an exciting, for me, I find it a really exciting project to be a part of. But no one really knows what kind of impact it's going to have. So yeah, it's exciting.
And do you share some of these insights on your Instagram, right? Or
I do. I share a lot of my sort of more of my stories. I'll sort of like ramble on to people, but yeah, I share a couple of projects and work and stuff, but it's always hard to know. Again, I'm sure you understand, like, sharing things on Instagram, it does feel like sometimes it has to be finished or it has to be perfect, and that's an ongoing battle that I'm having with myself to just share it no matter what and talk about it. Yeah. So
okay, let's then come back to our creative routine. How your usual day looks like? You wake up, do you have a studio, do you work at home? Can you describe it for
yeah,
us?
sure. So I do have a studio, which is here. It has been a complete mess recently, but I managed to tidy it yesterday. It's actually my dad's office, so I'm very fortunate. I I moved back to North Wales a few years ago, and before that, I had a spare bedroom where I would keep all my art stuff. And yeah, this I have a lot of art things, so it's too much to keep at home. Annoyingly, I live in a super small little bungalow, so managed to commandeer my dad's office from him. He lives abroad, so he's not here a lot of the time. And yeah, like I said, super support parents. I'm very fortunate, and I've been able to use this space. It's not very big, but my routine. It's a good question. I don't know if I have a routine. It's really hard. I think I love, like, routine really benefits me for sure, but I find it really difficult. I find it really difficult to stick to a routine, and lists as well. That was something I was thinking earlier. It's like lists are really helpful, but when something is on a list, I don't want to do it anymore. If I've written it down, I feel like I have to. It feels like someone's telling me what to do, and it's like, oh, it's not free anymore.
Yeah,
So
I understand. But anyway, to prepare your works to be exposed to exhibition, you have
yeah,
to have a plan
yeah,
on that.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I do. I think from me being critical about myself, I feel like I'm not very organized. But I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people that I have around me think, like, you're doing great, like you're very organized. But it's kind of like chaos. It's chaos, really. I really try for it not to be, but a lot of the time things are very last minute. I have like very clear visions of what I want. I think I'm a very visual person, and I will know exactly what I want to get done and how I want it to be done. But it's communicating that to a team of people doesn't always doesn't always go to plan. So yeah, for the exhibition that I've recently had, lists were great, and yeah, ticking things off always gives me a bit of a dopamine hit. So yeah, I think it's really difficult. I feel like it's a constant balance of, especially with creativity, it's a balance of allowing yourself, blocking out the time to create, but also allowing yourself the freedom to create. Because I think you can't always what's the word, sort of, create the perfect conditions. If you want to draw something, if you're on a walk and it looks beautiful and you want to capture the moment, then like you need to be able to have the freedom to do that. But when you run a business and you have to make money from your artwork, you also have to get a lot of stuff done. So yeah, my routine changes a lot. I would say, yeah, Monday to Friday I'm in the studio for sure. Most weekends as well. And yeah, I think it's just a case of, it depends on orders that come through. It depends on commissions that I have. When I had the exhibition, I wanted to make a lot of new work for that. So there is somewhat a routine. It's loose. It's not the same as waking up.
Very sorry.
Hi.
Sorry.
Sorry, I
Sorry.
don't know what happened.
I
I don't know if that was me or you. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think something is on my side.
Okay.
Very, very sorry about that.
I just went quiet. I was like, I don't know if it was my internet, and then I was like, hang on, maybe it's not me, and everyone's just watching me sit here in silence. So, oh
So
dear.
so
Sorry.
so sorry.
No worries. No, not at all. Fine. I can't remember what we were talking about.
You were sharing about that you block time for your creative routine, and you also have many commissions and preparing to work and figure out how to make a living from being an artist.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with us a little bit in more details how many days a week you just experiment with art, or maybe you know that one day every week you have to work on commission, and
Yeah.
what kind of commissions, by the way?
Yeah. Well, so these are some commissions I'm currently working on. They're two paintings, but it's actually a triptych, and it's very exciting. But I don't know how much detail I can go into. They're private commissions, so yeah, it's a really cool project. And sometimes I do just get people reaching out to me, and I love working. I love working with other people's ideas. It's always nice to challenge my own ideas. Like it keeps things fresh in my brain. But yeah, going back to the routine, I think it really changes depending on how much work I have to do. I do try to come into the studio at least 5 days a week, and most of the time I am in here on the weekend as well. But I mean, I'm sure as you can relate, like running a business takes a lot. So I've just been sort of throwing everything at it recently, and having an exhibition, having commissions to complete, having orders, and I recently launched some t-shirts and things as well. So yeah, there's a lot to do all the time, but I really enjoy it. So
So your t-shirt,
yeah.
so your t-shirts are available on the shop online?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
available. Yeah, I have an online shop, and
that's
yeah, the
cool.
t-shirts and little crop tops that change with the lights. So I think a lot of people really like them for raves and festivals and things like that. It's kind of, but I quite like them just in the daylight as well. So I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
they're beautiful when you
thank
see this multiple effect with different colors.
thank
And
you.
I'll have another question about the client. Where do you find them? Do they find you on Instagram, or do you have some way to find them,
Yeah,
attract them?
do you know, I wish I could sound really organized and like I approach people. I don't. I people find me from Instagram and social media, and yeah, as much as social media can feel like a job, you know, sometimes with the algorithm always changing, it can feel really forced sometimes. But I mean, I love it. I think we're so lucky as artists in this day and age. We're so lucky to have this opportunity, you know. 50 years ago, I would not be able to be a full-time artist. So thank you so much to everyone who's ever liked or supported or in any way. Like, it really means the world to me. So thank you. And yeah, people do just reach out to me through social media, through my
Mm-hmm.
website. I get different projects, and we'll sort of have a little conversation about what the idea might be and how we can move forward. And yeah, most of the time the people that get in touch with me are just absolutely
Mm-hmm.
lovely to work with, and yeah, I think I've made some cool commissions, so that's quite exciting.
Yeah. How do you think? How much time do you invest into your Instagram account? How often do you film reels or posts?
Yeah,
How much time?
that's a
Is
good
it a
question.
big? Is it a big part of your life as an artist?
Yeah, it is a big part of my life as an artist. I think sometimes I wish it wasn't. I think every artist could probably agree. The community I have online, so worth it. I think everyone's fantastic. Um, but yeah, I think it can add a whole other layer of things. You know, when you're painting or creating, to have to remember to sort of film it and then to spend a couple hours editing that and sharing, you know, just a 5-second clip will take, you know, an hour or something to
Mm-hmm.
edit. And yeah, it can be, I think it's hard. I struggle to keep track of the time that I spend on those things. I think social media, it's quite a blurred line because obviously people use that as their downtime as well. So for me, it's not just my job; it's also how I spend some of my recreational time, finding other artists, enjoying what I see. Just when you don't want to talk to people and you just go on your phone for a second, like that kind of thing. So I think it can then be confusing because I will be relaxing of an evening and then think, oh, I should make a reel, oh, I should post, or reply to comments, reply to these messages, and the lines get really blurred. But I also, in a way, I think that kind of suits me because I can work when I feel like working rather than uh, it being sort of a set block time, which doesn't, I just don't think it suits me that well because I can be where I want to be and I can sit down and work anywhere basically, which is given people a lot of freedom, hasn't it? So that's really good as well. But yeah, I don't know how much time. Yeah, it's really hard to say. What about you? Do you feel like you have to spend a lot of time creating and things on social media, or
Yeah, I think it's a big part of my work, and
yeah,
I really enjoy it. Yes, sometimes it can be a little bit too
yeah,
much to work on creating a reel or something. But anyway, it's also a creative process for me. I love to think on how to film a video or how to just show this information in which way it's
yeah,
better to do this. It's also interesting, really,
yeah.
very interesting.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I agree. Like there is a joy behind it as well. I think it's just getting the balance and not feeling burnt out, isn't
Hmm.
it? Because like we were going back to the whole point of making artwork. You might enjoy the process, but it's also about sharing it with other people. And social media has
Hmm.
given us that platform. And again, you can control and curate how people see it based on your videos and the posts that you decide to share. And yeah, most of the time I enjoy it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
But
it sometimes might be a little bit hard to be always consistent
yeah,
because if you, but yeah, it's the same with the creative process. You just come to your studio every
yeah,
day, and maybe some days are more effective,
yeah,
some are less, and
exactly.
the same with social media.
Exactly. exactly. And it's just playing around and seeing what people enjoy and how to communicate your ideas with people in a way that they can understand and process. I think, like you said, actually figuring out the best way to express your ideas through video is a really fun challenge sometimes. And I think, especially with the work that I make, it's, you know, as a tool, it lends itself really, really well because my work is video friendly. Like, it is all about that kind of stop motion animation effect, so they kind of go hand in hand, which is lucky for me. So, yeah.
Actually, I have a lot of questions. I would love to talk more,
Yeah.
but I think but I think we have to finish our live because it will be too long. It will be too hard to watch it from beginning.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe at the end, could you please give some main tips to beginner artists or people who want to reveal themselves as an artist on social media or on exhibitions, or what would you say to yourself a few years ago? What are the main tips?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I don't give up. I know it's so boring, such an annoying thing to hear, but it's so true. Like, just if you have a really clear vision of what you want, which I did, I knew, I don't know how I knew, but I just like saw it. I knew what I wanted, and you just have to keep doing the right things until you get there. And it's really difficult because sometimes I don't know if, you know, coming from a place where my parents have been able to support me in lots of different ways, like I am very lucky. I have, I don't have too many difficult systems that I have to overcome in order to have gotten to where I am. And I know that a lot of people, you know, that is a privilege compared to the situations that a lot of people are in. But I do think just sticking to it and keep going, keep showing up, keep making stuff. And it's not about what other people think, it's about your own creative process and sharing that with the world. And regardless of how people receive it, you kind of have to just keep going. And yeah, I don't know, it's hard to make money from art. It can be really difficult. So you do have to have an entrepreneurial mindset as well. You have to be fearless, and you have to not care what's going to happen. And for a long time I had a full-time job. It was only 4 months ago that I quit my full-time job as well. I've worked in hospitality, I've worked in education to support myself, and all of those things, you know, it was draining and it was tiring, but it means that I could get to where I am now. So yeah, just try and think outside the box and find different ways to keep supporting yourself, and don't give up on making. Even if it's only 1 hour a week, keep making something and keep taking steps forward and practicing and enjoying it, basically. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah,
It sounds very cliche, but
no, I can totally relate to all these tips. Maybe I would add, find a supportive community, some maybe friends or fellow artists, fellow creatives, offline or online, a group of people who have the same goals and who want to develop themselves as an artist.
Yeah, that's really good advice as well. And yeah, there are a lot of resources online. You know, there's a lot of things. Going back to the fact that we have the internet, like social media is great, but also the fact that we have access to the internet in general. You know, I'd never put on a proper full-on exhibition before, and there's so many blogs and articles online that will really help you. So if you know what you want, then don't be afraid to just go and get it and put the time in to figure it out. It's all a learning curve. It doesn't really matter if it goes right or wrong. Just do it and see what happens. Yeah, that's my advice.
Thank you so much. And thank you. And for everyone who is listening and maybe watching the recording, please let us know in the comment if you have some more questions and maybe want us to make another live. I will be really happy to talk with you more, Helena, because I feel so many related things with you.
It's
And
so nice.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking to other artists, and I think your work is absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I feel really honoured that you wanted to chat with me. So thanks, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye.
See ya.